I think those are probably, in terms of comfort, those are two of the more important things. So if you want some practical tips immediately in terms of equipment, it's worth having good footwear, and it's worth having a comfortable backpack, and being able to get the weight of what you're carrying. We'll talk about food and water and things as well. The weight on your hips, right? So, in terms, so it's sitting on your skeleton rather than sitting on your muscles, right? Because your muscles fatigue. So really, one of the tips, simple tips with carrying a backpack, anybody who's been I haven't been in the military, but anybody in the military would know this as well, is you really want the weight on your hips, right? Rather than hanging off your shoulders, making everything quite sore and fatigue quite quickly. So a good fitting backpack that you can then put inside it what you need for wherever you want to go. And then I would say the next most important thing is a good sleeping bag, because as someone once said to me, and I think it's good advice, is you're either in your boots or you're in your sleeping bag, right? So in terms of comfort, when you're journeying, I would say good footwear and a good, nice, comfortable sleeping bag, and maybe a mat to go underneath it is very important too. Then you're going to have a reasonably okay time. If you can sleep nicely and your feet aren't too bad, then you can go where you like. And then I think it's really a case of deciding where you want to go and where you want to explore. What do you want to see? What type of experience do you want to have? And I think one piece of advice, if we're talking about beginners, people who've not really been out, is keep it quite simple to start off with. Maybe just plan a weekend away. Can you get the train out of the city on a Friday evening, or maybe take the day off work on Friday, train or the bus out into the country somewhere where there's a trail. And I'm being very generic here, because in some countries it's easier to camp wild than others. Some places you have to stay on a campsite. I understand that, but just generically. Think about somewhere where you can easily get to for a weekend, maybe a long weekend, and just try out walking with your gear. You don't have to carry too much food and water then, because you're not going for very long. You can make sure that your systems all work, that you're comfortable. Maybe you're not very good yet with map reading and all those sorts of things, and figuring out your route. So keep it fairly simple. Make the chance of failure quite low, but start to test a few things, test your assumptions, because people are full of assumptions, and the internet is full of assumptions, and most people like to get advice on the internet. And I think keeping things simple to start off with, thinking, if you think you can walk 20 kilometers in a day, maybe just keep it to 10 or 5 or whatever. Just keep it fairly straightforward and go, okay, I'm going to go there, I'm going to take my gear, I'm going to set up my tent, I'm going to cook myself some food, I'm going to enjoy the scenery. I'm going to sleep out in my equipment, see how it all goes. And if I have a terrible night, I'm only here for 1 or 2 nights, on this trip, and then I go home and then I can catch up on my sleep. And you can learn. Even before that, you can, if you want, you can go into the back. If you've got a backyard or a back garden or a balcony or a roof, go and try sleeping in your, you buy a sleeping bag from the store. Maybe go and try and sleep up there in your sleeping bag and your sleeping mat. Am I warm enough? Am I comfortable? What issues do I have? People always forget simple things with sleeping bags, like if it's a bit chilly at night, making sure that the cords are tightened up so that all the warm air doesn't come out. Because we don't do that at home, right? We put a blanket over or put a duvet over us, and we're just kind of loose under the covers, right? But when you're outside in a sleeping bag, that warm air maybe it's important for it to be trapped. Different times of the year, maybe you want the thing completely open, but people often forget to use that. So you can practice all those things at home. Even in the house, I lay my sleeping mat out, sleep in my sleeping bag for a night. Am I going to be comfortable? Maybe do it on the roof in the backyard or what have you, as I say. And then when you go on your trip, you're already starting to be familiar. I think going out with a backpack and some basic camping equipment, you can buy a tent, not very much money. Okay, it won't necessarily be the best quality tent in the world, but you see people going to music festivals, they buy a cheap tent, they survive in them for a weekend, right? Even if it rains. So you can buy an expensive tent, I would still buy a reasonably good sleeping bag, a sleeping mat, because they will last you, right? And then some decent boots, and then you can go.